forced to go to all your meetings. You can just, go back to the recap and get answers to all your questions. You don't have to sit through the recording. And then that really changed behaviors, right? Because some people feel like, hey, no, I don't have to go to all my meetings. I can now do work, not feel like I'm wasting all my day in meetings. And that in my mind was revolutionary because it changed behaviors. Now we're going into the next evolution of AI in meetings, where it changes from being one-to-one, where I'm interacting with the AI in a one-on-one, but to bring the AI into the meeting in a way that can interact with multiple people. So I'm going to show you some stuff here now. Some of this stuff is in private preview, some stuff is in public preview, but some of these things are going to start rolling out into the product in the next few months. By the way, I would love to hear your feedback. If you listen to these things, put it in the chat. Hopefully, at the end of my my slides, we can go back to the chat. And Bob, if you can help me, collect all those questions, and then we can go through those questions at the end. So the first thing is how you bring facilitator, right? Like you're gonna go into your invites, and you're gonna say, hey, I want a meeting facilitator into this meeting. But what is it that it's going to do for you, right? Actually, just mentioned here, it's about efficiency, of helping things flow in the meeting. Sometimes you start thinking about, hey, I want my meetings to be run more efficiently, just my time to be used more effectively, and make sure that at the end we accomplish something. How many times we've been in a meeting where we just sat and talked, and it's like, was anything decided here? Did we actually accomplish something with this? How many? I mean, like, my God, like that's, at least for me, it's something I face a lot of times. So anyway, so the first thing is, sometimes you get into this situation where we start a meeting and we're waiting for this person, and you already wasted 5 minutes, sometimes more, waiting for people, right? And then you have to nudge them and yada yada. What if this thing can actually do it for you? So you can see here, as the facilitator is saying, hey, we're still waiting for somebody. And somebody say, I'd love Kate to join. I say, hey, do you want me to have Kate join? And then it just nudge Kate into the meeting. So again, these are some of the actions that, based on the conversation of the meeting, the facilitator can bring those. Sometimes people don't even know they can nudge somebody, right? That's I'll say it's an advanced feature in the product. But facilitator can surface some of these things into the meeting based on the context of the conversation. So he's listening to the conversation. Say, wait a minute. I think you want to nudge somebody. So let me bubble up that functionality to you so you can actually do it. Then next, let's play this one. This is about, taking live notes. This is a loop document, so you can actually update it while AI is updating this. So, nobody should be in a meeting ever again having to take notes of what's going on. There is an AI that's going to take amazing notes from the meeting that you can collaborate with. You can make edits, you can add additions, but this thing is going to take care of all of those things for you. And again, it goes from the same context of, what's being discussed in the transcript, what's being said in the chat, what's being presented in the screen, and taking all of those things and really build this amazing set of notes from the meeting. And I think this is absolutely a game changer when it comes to the quality, the accuracy. One of the things that we've done is improving how good the transcripts are. Oh, Juan, somebody said something. Okay, so I'll answer those questions later. Okay, good. So this basically tells us, hey, now we can not only have AI fill this out, but it's a collaborative loop document that then I can take it, share it anywhere. All those great things about loop documents that we can do. All right, next is about agenda, and say, hey, do you have an agenda in this meeting? Can we deduct like what's actually this meeting is about? And facilitator can start like based on the meeting invites, notes and conversation, kind of say, hey, this is what we're trying to do, and really try to guide the conversation. And based on the time, say, hey, we only have a certain amount of time. Hey, we haven't really talked about this. Do you guys want to talk about these things? And really sort of guide that. Oftentimes, we allocate one person in the meeting to do these things, right? The time cop, the person try to keep the conversation flowing, and not only not the most enjoyable role, but not everybody's necessarily effective at it, and in many cases, nobody's doing this kind of role. So having an AI that fulfill that role in every meeting that you're in, now you give yourself a much better chance to make sure that that time spent in the meeting is one that is well spent. Sometimes I tell people, if you were to go and look at how much every meeting goes cost, and say, what is the salary for every person for 1 hour? How much we pay every employee? And then we bring 30 people into the meeting. How much this meeting costs? Oh my God. If people look at that and say, you're going to go there and just talk without accomplishing anything, man, that's just massive waste of money. So being able to make sure that those things are happening, decisions are being made, the conversation is being focused, and we provide guardrails to ensure that the collaboration stays in context is so important to ensure people get more disciplined about how they spend time in meetings. And again, this is all happening through AI, so it's scalable. We can make this available to all meetings, to all users of that have access to Copilot. Okay, so this one, let me just play. This one is about, hey, like we've been talking about a particular topic, and it's like, hey, maybe it's time for us to go and move to the next thing, right? And it starts saying, as the conversation goes, sometimes you kind of go into a rat hole, and you can pull people into the next topic, and make sure that sort of like we call it the time cop, and say, hey, you have this much time for this topic, and then we got to move to the next one. I don't know if you've ever been in these meetings where you have many topics and you're the last one in the meeting. And then the first people presenting go long, and then you find yourself with just a handful of minutes to cover your topic that you're supposed to cover in 10 minutes. And you always get the short stick. So this having the time cop is really helpful to stay keep the team focused. And again, people can do this today, right? People do this today, but the ability that now you can have an AI doing this, you take all that burden, and then everybody can focus on the key conversation, what they're trying to accomplish in the meeting, and be more productive.
Does it have like a loud buzzer?
Ah,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
we actually been, yeah, that's a good point, Melissa. We actually been talking about how uh right now facilitators only interacting in meeting chat. We're exploring other ways for it to engage. But look at what I just showed, right? This visual thing on the top, where now you're gonna see sort of like a clock, and say, where you are in the meeting, and see the different topics and timings. So there's opportunities for us to provide different visualizations for how to make this possible. Right now, I mean, there's a lot of exploration on this. What's the right way of doing this? Sometimes one of the feedback we get with facilitator is people don't see facilitator in the meeting and say, I don't even know what to expect from it. So there's aspects of how do we educate users to really make the best use of it? What's the best way to present it? And this is where you play a role in this as we try these previews in the product, to tell us what you think, how you see this could potentially work in your organization with your customers to get the most out of it, right? We seek something that needs to be intuitive to the user, so people just sort of kind of get it easily without a lot of explanation. But understand that some of these things are a bit more advanced. Ultimately, we're trying to drive more discipline in meetings, right? Make sure the time is well spent. So some of these things are helping people run better and more effective meetings. So this one again is also about helping a presenter how to engage. And this is, when you're a presenter, one of the challenges I'm going through that right now is I'm presenting, but how do I stay engaged with those people? People asking questions, and right now I said, hey, just go till the end. I'll ask questions because in the chat there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know how much of it I need to read or see, and it's like, how do I bring the right information to the presenter, so that he can better engage with the audience, and sort of kind of distill a lot of the noise in the chat to what's actually relevant to the person. It's another aspect of how we're bringing this concept of facilitator into the meeting. The other one is how facilitator can answer questions, and you might have a question about, hey, what is the sales figure for this, or what does this term mean, or whatever those things, and sometimes you might be in situations where a couple of people have the same question and they may not be asking that question, but you're able to bring answers to those that are visible to everybody in the meeting. Also brings another a dimension of how we can make facilitator a lot more useful to the collective group that is in the meeting. All right. Okay. So I'm going to show you another one that I think is super interesting. This one is called AI interpreter. And so the concept of AI interpreter is that, it, in many global organizations or companies who have customers in other countries, we often deal with the language barrier, right? And a classic example is the UN, and where you have these meetings, and then you have every country that speaks a different language having an interpreter, and they just listen to whatever the person in the front is saying. And you can do that in those very sophisticated places, but most instances this is a challenge, right? And people try to speak English, but they don't really speak English well, and then you get a lot of things lost in translation and so on. So bringing the ability in teams to provide real time um, uh, audio translation is a goal to us. But also understand that the interactions between people are important to feel realistic, and for that, one of the things that we do is we actually clone the voice of the person. So when I'm speaking in the meeting and I am saying things, um, let's say I speak Spanish, so I'll say something in Spanish, and you want to listen to me in English, you would listen to my voice in English. Um, uh, it's just exactly the same way I sound, and it's actually surprising because when we run the test, I sounded exactly as I sound in English when I spoke in Spanish. So it was it was able to not only translate what I was saying, but somehow kept my Puerto Rican accent in the way I was speaking English. So I was so amazed because I didn't sound like a Native American or English person. I sounded Puerto Rican. So it was great because it kept who I was. It sounded like me, and that just fascinating aspect of building that connection with those who are on the other side. So I'll play the video. In this case, we have some Japanese, some Chinese individuals, and we'll see. Now, it is not real time. It has a few seconds delay in how he speaks. So we're creating sort of like a visual cues to when the person is speaking, when he's translating, so that when you have back and forth conversations, you're waiting for each other turns a bit. I'll also say that in meetings like this, where there's only one person speaking, so imagine, I'm a leader for a global organization. I'm doing a all hands meeting and I have people in different countries. They could all say, hey, I want to listen in Spanish, in Portuguese. I want to listen in Japanese. And because it's a one way, it flows really well. So let me play it. Okay. All right. So you saw, you can actually see in the background, listen a little bit the other person's voice, and then the real voice, and how those are presented. So, anyways, this is also in preview. Um, um, and we will plan to release this soon. There's going to be an announcement in build, so we're getting a bit of a early on this. But these are things that are going to bring people closer, improve collaboration. And again, it's the value of AI. How many people can afford to have this type of translators in meetings, right? Only a handful of people in the world can do this. So now we bring this capability to everyone who has Copilot entitlements. All right. So far I've spoken about AI solutions, but I also want to talk about meeting performance because it's an aspect that is as important, if not more important, than all the flashy features that we do. So we want Teams to be the fastest, most reliable application in the market when it comes to collaboration. Um, but Teams is not a native app. It's a hybrid app. It has some native code. It has some web code, and that has some benefits, right? With web, you can create some really fancy UI experiences, very rich, that are very hard to do on native. Then native, if you want to get certain performance aspects, then you get better. So it's always a trade-off. And the key is, how do we strike the right balance? How much code needs to be native? How much code needs to be web? Originally, what we did is we took the engine that was the media engine that was used for Skype, and that's been the driving engine for web. I'm sorry, for video, audio, and screen share. And then we built a web layer on top of it. But we realized that wasn't quite right. The separation between native and web, and had to do with a lot of the way we communicated between the different processes, right? Web is running in one process, native is running in another process. And you can see this diagram here. So we actually created it's called native meeting stage, and this is a separate layer of native code. That what it does is it reduces the amount of traffic that happens between web and native, and that has significant improvements in performance. So again, this is go back to, and by the way, we rolled this out to our four ready. You're experiencing native stage, although this is PowerPoint Live, so it's not using it right now. But ultimately, these are things that we roll out. People don't know these things are happening, but ultimately these things are just making the product faster, more reliable, and so on. And it's a big commitment. Like I'll say, more than half the team, more than half my team is working on reliability, security, performance, all those the fundamentals. We're very committed to make sure the product just works, right? You don't get the right to do all this AI work when you cannot join a meeting, or it's slow, or it crashes. We need to nail those things before we get to play on do all this AI innovation. And why I want to call it out, because I think it's an important aspect of what we do. So I'll show you an example here of the meeting join latency between one or the other. Okay, so you can see on the left and the right the difference in performance when one joins. On the left is native. You can see how quickly the videos show up compared to on the right. So the next one is when you have a lot of videos on stage and you're flipping through the videos. I'll show you the difference. And this is because there's just a lot of API traffic between the web layer and the native layer. And by reducing that traffic, we're able to do these things much faster. And some of these things is like the user expects things to be just snappy. I click on something, just happens, just show up. A button I click, a pop-up comes up. That thing needs to be, really snappy, right? And that's what builds user love. So we got to go through a lot of these things to go and do these optimizations. All right. So far I show you meetings optimizations. Let me just go over now my second topic on things that I learned while building AI solutions. So five things I learned, and I hope some of this resonate, or a good insight. If you're ever building some AI solutions, AI agents, I think agents is really the future. I'll talk about that. The first one is, man, like we built a lot of demos and we get so excited about the demo, and then we realize how hard it was to get that to get into production. Significant amount of work from a demo to production. With AI, it's very easy to get one scenario to work, but then when you start like trying to address it and across many scenarios, it's quite complicated. So I say that you have to uh, be realistic from, hey, I built this thing, it's good demo, I show it to my boss, and then people think that, oh my god, like you're gonna get this in the next few weeks, it's gonna be out, and setting the expectation that just getting to really be robust is actually quite a bit of work. Which brings me to the second topic that is often ignored, is having a test strategy. When we first built the Copilot, we didn't think about testing as much because honestly, with non-deterministic environments such as with AI, it's much harder. But then we start finding that, hey, we need a new model. We got this new faster model, so we got to move to this one, but it actually doesn't produce the same output. So are we regressing or not? And we were doing it by hand and eyeballing the responses, and clearly we noticed, hey, this is just not sustainable. So big lesson was, hey, you need to think about from the get-go, how are you going to test this? These non-deterministic environments require a different strategy for how they're going to be tested. But if you don't have a good solution for testing, you can get a V1 out there, but then as things start to change, it's going to be hard to ensure that things are not regressing. And when you start injecting this AI solution into business workflows, it's actually very important that you have a good test strategy. To me, this one is probably the most important one. And this is, we face this problem with every AI project that we worked on, which is we talk about the solution, we talk about it, and we all get excited, but we say, but what is really the impact? What's the business impact? And how would I measure it? And that's a profound question to ask from the get-go. When you build a concept, you get excited about it, you're still thinking about testing it, but you got to think about what is the impact. Because if you're not able to define that impact, it's very hard to sustain investment in these areas. It's very hard to measure success. They say, hey, okay, so we build something, we ship it, but is it really making a difference? And there's a lot of questions people have about a lot of these AI solutions. Your Copilot, is it's really having an impact? Like, what is the impact? We got to start answering those questions with clarity so the customers understand what is the ROI of these investments. All right, next, it's I think this is interesting, and it reminds me of when we did the transition to the cloud, or when we did the transition to mobile, where people say, oh, I'm building mobile first applications or cloud first or cloud native applications, right? It was like, oh, now with this new paradigm, you think differently about how you build a solution. It's not just slapping something to an existing solution, but really reimagining the solution. So, everything that we have prior to AI needs to be reimagined, right? And we're going through that process of learning how to use these new technologies, but then it's really thinking about reimagining it. And it's like, okay, so if you start from a blank sheet of paper, and now that you have AI, how would you approach this in the first place? And that's an interesting and profound question that you have to think about when you're building new solutions, because what's happening is a lot of these new startups who have no baggage or legacy, they're just thinking fresh, right? And this is how the established companies often get disrupted, right? You think about on-prem software companies. I mean, I was at Citrix, or companies that build solutions for desktop and then mobile just sort of displace a lot of those things. It's because of the opportunity to reimagine things based on what the new capabilities are, which is to me is fascinating because it sort of gives you an opportunity to think very differently about it. And then I'll say last one, and this one is a fairly recent one for me. Like when AI came, we all talk about prompt engineering, right? That's a new career, prompt engineering. And I remember talking to one of the uh, engineers in team who was doing a lot of prompting engineering. And I said, hey, where do we find these prompt engineers, right? Like, who is good at this? And he was telling me, hey, who's a good prompt engineer? Kindergarten teacher. Because they know how to tell a toddler nine different ways how to do something until they get the toddler to do the thing, right? Because with AI, you got to try many times until you get it to do the right thing. But the reality is that prompting can get you so far. The real opportunity is in fine tuning the models. And now all these new models allow you to do fine tuning. It is important to learn what is fine tuning, how to do it effectively. Sometimes people say, oh, you need to be a data scientist for this. I don't believe in that. I think anybody can do this. Like anything, you can learn it and do it. But it's with fine tuning that you can actually get AI to do amazing things. Okay, so that's my five lessons. Right. So next, I want to talk to you about what I'm most excited about, and what I'm most excited about um, with the future AI is autonomous agents. And let me just frame what autonomous agents are, so you get a little bit of context. So if you think about the evolution of agents, it started with level one, which is, hey, I just give request, and the agent does one thing and responds back to me, right? That's the simplest one. And there's tons of those, and those are super useful. Then we start getting into, oh, now this thing can really understand intent and can connect multiple skills and perform complex tasks, right? And that's level two. Now, this can actually perform many tasks based on specific prompts. And there's a lot of agents being built with this. And, the new models like O1 and O3 are able to do even more complex tasks. I understand those things. But the real future is when agents start to be autonomous. You're not about just telling it, do this, but really understand, hey, do you have this problem space, and you're able to react to many things in the system and perform tasks, where now the human is kind of in a supervising role, not necessarily dictating what to do, right? And then you start expanding that. And I want to take a moment to talk about why does this matter. And this is I'm going to be a little philosophical about this, but I think it's important to understand and frame this. So you see, um, society really had an explosion after the Renaissance, because we had changed the premise of the future. We will grow our economy in the future. So there was this promise that we'll continue to grow, that allow capitalism to build, where banks can deposit $1, they can lend it 10 times, because of this promise that our economy will continue to grow, that the future, that economy will continue to grow. And that has been how it's been over the past 500 years. And we've seen this explosion of growth, right? And the Industrial Revolution really drove a lot of growth, and so on. But we are now facing a very interesting challenge. You see, the reason we were able to support this growth was because we have a explosion in population, right? We grow now. We're at 7 billion people, but we're now hitting an inflection point where the number of people who are at working age is declining. That had not happened since the the Black Plague in the Middle Ages. But since our massive economic growth um, since the Renaissance, we haven't had that problem. The problem is people just don't having enough kids, right? And it's likely to continue that way. So clearly, for us to continue to drive growth, economic growth at a global level, we we will need to rely on these digital entities that are going to do a lot of this work. Sometimes we fear about, oh, these things are going after our jobs. Reality is that the future is going to be a mix of people doing work, AI agents doing work. It's going to mix of that, but ultimately, this is going to help us drive a lot of growth. You know, people are having no kids or one kid. I mean, I have a kids on the early 20s. They're not even thinking about it. I mean, I had my first kid at 25. And even then, when I had my kid, people are looking at me, man, you had kids early. So imagine, like, you start seeing that trend, right? Where people just don't think or can afford to have kids, or, I mean, many, many reasons. So actually, I'll share a concept, and this is something I built as a concept, as exploring how these autonomous agents are, and I want to share some of this concept with you because I mean I'll build all this using public APIs. Anybody can do this, but the premise was, hey, what if I give an agent okay, oh sorry, I don't want this to play videos. Oh, sorry. Whoa, I don't want this to play. Okay. Well, oh, and I'm sorry that it's playing some audio. Oh, I don't want this. Okay, I'm not gonna be able oh my God. This thing has some audio that I didn't want it to play. Uh
It's
let me
tech
see.
going wild on you there, Juan.
What's that?
I said the tech's going wild on you right there.
Well, I mean, I copy paste this from another PowerPoint that I have put some audio in it. I didn't. Let me see if I. Let me see. Hold on a sec.
This isn't the start of the Skynet revolt, is it?
This is just a lame PowerPoint issue that I'm running into. Let me go. Let me go into screen share. But let me do one thing here real quick. Actually, I think I know what I need to do. Hold on a sec. Give me a moment. So, so I started the idea of, hey, what if you build an agent that looks like a person in the system, and how would those interactions be? And so you start thinking about that thought process of, hey, agents that just like show up in the system as a regular user. So I'm gonna stop presenting and start again. And I think now, see, PowerPoint. One problem with PowerPoint Live, I don't know if you know this, but once I'm presenting, it won't reflect changes I make in the PowerPoints. If I wanted to show the changes, it has to, I have to reload the page. So I think I make the changes now. So let's see, because I don't want the audio. I want to explain it myself. All right. So imagine you have this agent and, created users in the system, I give it a title, and, think the agent boots and say, hey, what's my name? Why do I report to? And the agent itself can actually send emails, send text messages, send team messages, just like a regular user, right? And then they're able to use this as a way to perform autonomous tasks, right? And this is all using graph. So you can build this today if you want. You can just go and build an agent that impersonates a user, and it calls the graph and listens to messages or send messages. Nothing here that is black magic. But it also understands, this is a test tenant that I'm running in, and it can actually query the directory so it knows who is who in the system, because if I'm going to collaborate in this environment, I know what the users are. It can actually also make calls to the calendar and create calendar invites, just like pretty much anything that's in the graph. It could actually do, right? Could also access, let's say, Azure DevOps and pull data from a project. Say, hey, what's it like? Somebody says, hey, tell me a status on where the project is, and goes over there and pulls the data and do those things. And the key is about, it's a directed autonomy. And the premise I was exploring here was, hey, an agent that, you hire, right? And they play a role in the organization like you would do with a person. And you try to mimic that in every aspect of how a user be, and then you let an agent do all those things. Like for instance, the first day they join, he sends an email to the manager, say, hey, I just joined, what am I supposed to do? Well, tell me what my job responsibilities are. And then the manager goes and tells, I want you to run this project. I want you to talk to these people. And then the agent starts building all this set of tasks that they have to complete. And then whenever they have some questions, it goes back to the manager. and ask, hey, what am I supposed to do here and there? But that's sort of kind of like a feature where you see these agents. I call them digital employees or digital colleagues that are sort of kind of coexisting in the organization, performing different tasks and collaborating with people the way we're accustomed to interface. Obviously, models still, I'll say the current generation models are not smart enough yet to do this. In great complexity, but we're getting there, right? I think the process of the models are evolving is fascinating, and we'll start seeing, there's a lot of startup companies going down this route. There's a lot of um, uh, investment in these AI agents because this is sort of where everybody's sort of gravitating where the future of AI innovation is going to be is in agents. So if you like to write code, if you thinking about business opportunities, using Copilot Studio, using some of the tooling that we have with M365, the graph. I mean, this is an agent that knows how to talk to the graph. You can use SCP to access the graph through and expose the graph to an AI agent. There's a lot of these things are coming to play now that make the possibility of building these agents a reality. And I think first, most of these agents are going to be very specific to a particular business or particular scenarios, and that creates a lot of opportunity to many people to build these things for different businesses and scale from there. So I think it's a fascinating time. It's capturing my entire imagination. My like the only thing I'm thinking about is how we're gonna make this possible and how all this is gonna work and how people are gonna accept this thing. So it's it's a lot of technical problems, philosophical problems, and everything sort of interconnecting into how this future is gonna look like. Um, I tell people it is a fascinating time to be in, such a transformative time. I tell people, we're gonna get to tell our grandkids, hey, I was there at that point when we are all inventing all this stuff that really transformed, and really gave humanity another leg to continue to grow and expand in a responsible way, right? Like that's the responsibility we all carry as we trace this journey forward. And so with that, that's all I had. 45 minutes. I wanted to have 15 minutes on questions because I have to bail out in 15 minutes. But I hope you found this information useful. I hope that it was thought provoking. Also value the feedback, the questions that you may have, and how you help us shape things in the right direction, and give us perspectives on how you see things and things that we should consider as we continue to trace the path for teams, but also just the overall Microsoft.
Yeah. Thanks, Juan. I think Hannah's got a few questions that did queue up, so she's going to read them off. And if we have time after those, if anybody has any additional questions, we can get those going as well.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go from the oldest questions onward. So the first question, Juan, Copilot is a fast-moving product. What are the best blogs, influencers, or communications to follow to keep up with the progress and releases?
Okay, so I say you should all be following the M365 roadmap website. We really do a lot of effort to keep it up to date, at least on Teams. I'm telling you, like, in fact, this is one of my responsibilities to make sure that everything that we publish on Teams and the roadmap is accurate, is landing in the right time and all that. So a lot of stuff that is user facing, like for instance, we didn't put a roadmap item for the native stage because that's just internal, plumbing. But anything that's user facing, we'll put it in the M365 roadmap. We do have the Microsoft blog that usually captures most of the things that we're changing. And there's like a monthly roll up that we do of what we shipped the previous month. So those will be the two. If you guys want to follow me on LinkedIn, I post 2-3 times on LinkedIn about different things that we're doing. So that's another way to stay on top. But I'll say those first two are probably the most important ones.
Awesome. And Juan, that's the right roadmap that I sent. It's just the general kind of 365 roadmap. It's got a lot of topics all summarized.
Yeah. You can filter to teams and see what's all the different things are going.
Awesome. All right. Next question. It was towards the beginning when you were talking about the topics and I can't remember what it was, but is it possible to set visual timers for the topics and have AI start the timers automatically? Sounds like that's something maybe Google does right now.
Yeah, I think I show it. Let me see if I get it. Let me play this one. So you see in this one, you'll see how on the top we're gonna show. Is this one? Yeah, you see the thing on the top. You see it there. You see that bar on the top. So this is one of the concepts. I think we have finalized it, but it's gonna be something like that where you're gonna see sort of like a timeline, the different topics, and some visualization to give you an idea where we stand in terms of the agenda and time.
That makes sense.
And it's going to be automatic, right? That's the beauty of it. Like the beauty of a facilitator is that you don't have to do anything. He'll figure these things out for you based on the conversations, the context. Even if you have recurring meetings, he'll follow up from the previous one, all of those things. So you really want to think of it as like, hey, I don't have to worry about none of this stuff. I just want to focus on the problem that I want to discuss, the discussion, and this thing's going to help us guide all these things. And that's what we're striving for.
Awesome. Okay. And then when you were reviewing the translation functionality, there were lots of comments as to how accurate it is. Is there a metric for how accurate it is or anything you can speak to there?
I don't know top of mind how accurate it is, but we're doing a lot of work on testing on the translation. Obviously, that is so important. Make sure things are not getting lost in translation because of poor translation. But I'll say the current models are really good at doing translation. The thing that we often have to do is augmenting the quality of the transcription by doing things such as sometimes people use internal terms that may not be well understood by the LLMs who simply have world knowledge, but they don't have the knowledge of the business. So we're doing a lot of those things in general in Copilot to make sure that those things are properly understood and not misconstrued or represented incorrectly.
Makes sense. And then did you say it was currently 9 languages? Is that being built out? The end goal is all languages, but do you guys have kind of a number
like anything? Yeah, like anything, we start with a subset of languages and then we expand to the rest. Each of the languages need a lot of quality control, so we want to start with the ones that have the most usage and then expand.
Where do you find the list of the 9 languages?
Oh, that's going to be published when we release there's going to be a blog post. I think it's in build. Okay. In next month. We're going to have the announcement with all the details. But I'm assuming English, Japanese, Chinese, German. I mean, the basics, all the Latin languages.
Yeah.
The Spanish, I know that one.
Cool. Okay. The last one that I noted from the chat is there is a difference between tuning and training. Can we define what tuning means?
Yes. So what tuning is you're actually modifying the model. And the way you're modifying the model is through by giving the model a bunch of examples. Say, based on this request, this is the right response. and you give them lots of those. And that allows the model to really behave closer to what you're looking for. Because otherwise the model is trained on world knowledge, right? And in most cases it does what you want, but oftentimes you find it that it's not consistent in the way it behaves. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's like 90%, 95, but it gets things wrong. So to really get it to be super, super accurate, then you have to give them lots of examples. And then what it does is it refines the model itself. So then the prompt, when you give the prompt, it actually gets the result that you want. There's a lot of documentation in OpenAI explaining how to do this. This wasn't possible in the past, and then they only had it available for GPT 3.5. Now GPT 4.0 can be fine-tuned, and that's proven to be what allow us to get from 95% accuracy to the 99 and above. So if you want to get that level of accuracy, you won't be able to do that, continue to tune in the prompt. That was the thing that we learned. It's like, we're trying to get to the 99 and we keep tuning the prompt and we just hitting that ceiling. And it wasn't until we got the fine tuning to really help us get there.
Great. Okay, that's all I have on my list. Do we want to open it up if anybody else has any questions?
Yeah, just raise your hand. That way we can keep it kind of keep it in order. So if you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand.
Steve?
And we'll get you covered. Yeah, Steve, right there.
Yeah, quick question, Juan. This may be too early, given that this is still in public preview, but how will this be licensed? Will it be part of M365 Copilot? Will it be a Teams Copilot? Will it be part
It's
of
Copilot. All of this AI stuff is Copilot. Copilot license.
all in the M365 license?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kieran, your hand's up next there. You're on mute, my friend.
Guess it helps if I stop talking and mute, right? Great presentation. I was curious, are there any ways to separate out like any beta features as we're releasing this stuff? The biggest encumbrance I see to trying to get this up and running here is the ability to get enabled through the organization, understanding what's private and what isn't, depending on the licensing tier, whether or not we're doing the enterprise licensing stuff. So I guess that's a two-parter.
Okay, so your question is, how do we enable the previews, or how do we sign up for the previews?
Yeah, and how do we keep it compartmentalized if we're a company that needs to be able to rely on production level, I guess, availability and quality versus testing new features?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some features that are fairly targeted that don't really, I'll say, are in the middle of the critical path. Some other features are a bit more into the critical path. But I'll say that, once we put something in even when we put stuff in private preview, we've gone through a lot of internal dogfooding, months of dogfooding internal. But the one thing also you can do is you can target to a subset of users. So you don't have to give this to all the users. And we're also looking into not requiring you to be in tab to be able to try some of these things, so that we can, because ultimately one of the things that we're trying to solve is get more feedback from users during these phases, so we can do better refinement and better quality signals before we get to GA. So it's this I'll say it's an evolving space, but again, you can target certain users. There's certain things that are not critical path, so risk is low. But again, every customer has a different perspective on risk, how much risk they have to do, and some of the features is like how valuable is it for them to try them, right?
Okay. So I guess the really reassuring thing here is that we can target, instead of saying the entire company gets to try a preview, which may or may not have its issues, or even features that we come to rely on that may not be maybe supported in future releases. We can get in a smaller group to test out this functionality first. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
The other part to that, though, was about like the licensing and privacy of this data. I know a lot of organizations, they have to enable some of these features before we can start using it. And one of the biggest concerns is like, are we putting any data into models with our secret sauce that our competitors may be able to use once you start crunching those values, right? And my understanding is that you have enterprise grade licensing that ensures that the modeling doesn't maybe leak some of that information. But
Correct.
can you speak a little bit more on that?
Well, so we don't use any customer data for training. That's one thing. So the one thing that maybe we do in the future, but it's not something I'll say that we have established, is create custom fine-tuned models for each tenant with their data. But even in that case, it would be per tenant models. But I think maybe in the future that's going to be a path we take to really get to the quality that customers want because of how unique each business is, and that gives us the ability to really get to that point. But I don't think there's anything established around that, because obviously there's a lot of questions how you would manage that type of training and isolation. At this point, we're not doing any of it.
Okay, so that tells me that it's less of a risk to try and use these features, at least for teams, right?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is, like, by default, a good company is going to be like, we're assuming that privacy is an illusion, right? Unless you could prove to me that it's not private. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing that would hinder your adaptation of these features and testing.
Yeah, like to me, the actual biggest issue I see with meetings and Copilot with privacy, it's e-discovery. You see, in the past, we only understand, when you write something on email, that's been archived, and lawyers can go later and look at what you communicated in a email or even in a Teams chat. But what you say in a meeting wasn't necessarily something that was in the same category. But once you start transcribing meetings and recording them and basically digitizing the meeting, so then you can recap it and do all those things, then now that's within the bounds of a discovery. And so some companies are uncomfortable with that. I think so we have built some capabilities such as end-to-end encryption for meetings where you really want to keep it private. But most meetings you do want to digitize them, and then it's a question of people understanding, hey, whatever you say in a meeting, it's just like you said in an email, right? So you gotta make sure that
gotta be careful.
You understand that. Be careful.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry to monopolize your time.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. If not, we're on time. 1 hour. Thank you so much. Oh, Steve. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you found this interesting, and thank you for being part of the Microsoft ecosystem. And I look at your success as our success. So we're interested in making sure that you guys have successful deployments, successful engagement with customers. You bet your career businesses on the Microsoft platform, and for that I'm eternally grateful and committed to help you in your success.
Thanks, Juan. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having
me. Juan.
Yep,
that was great.
Thank you. Bye.
Great. That was awesome. Steve, I think you're going to jump in and we're going to kick up the second or the middle portion, we'll call it, right? It's like an Oreo cookie today. We've got the two, cookie edges and the creamy middle. Steve's going to bring up a slide real quick or two.
Yep.
And you could go ahead and fast forward that one. We are here at Doug. Just wanted to go over a few quick things, not too much, but just wanted to hit everybody with some information. If you haven't been with us before, Doug's been around. It's got a lot of stuff going on. I keep telling everybody I'm going to introduce them to Doug soon. I mean, I work with the guy every day. We should at least get him out there in the world. So keep an eye out. You might catch a glimpse of Doug here pretty soon. But been doing it for 30 years. It's a 30-year anniversary of when this started as an online forum, and has grown in the last 5 years to a much more involved community effort with folks locally and internationally now. Ton of activity. You can flip that slide, Steve. You can see 45,000 members in the community. all across the world. So a couple different things I'll point out. If you haven't been up onto the website, just check out Doug Hub. The best areas are the forums and YouTube. I mean, and the meetups are going to keep you informed, and obviously the conference has got its own website, but gosh, the forums are active. If you're looking for a place to find an answer, help out, those are always great. I mean, as an end user, Steve, you all can probably attest to the great use of forums. And then there's so much great content out on YouTube, just past webinars, past sessions, past meetings. So just check out the YouTube. You can just spend some time scrolling through it on a lunch. There's just so much content out there. That's good stuff. You can go ahead and hit that again, Steve. Some upcoming stuff. We've, most importantly, we've got a regional event happening here in the Rocky Mountains. It should, we call it Rocky Mountain because we have this little teeny region in Denver and Colorado Springs, and the folks that join us from Wyoming, and then the Rockies span up into Canada where the event is. So we're bringing all these folks together. It'll be a multi-track event, a full day of education and networking. Much like a conference, but just on a smaller scale. So get that one on your radar. It's free, so it'll be awesome to have everybody join us there. That'll be a next big meeting. We have one in between that we didn't get on here. I'm going to say it now. In June, Hannah's working on another spot at Oventive. If you didn't make it there with us last time, they got a great space. It's downtown. The view is awesome, and the facility is awesome. So looking forward to squeezing one in June as well. Just after DynamicsCon. But if you're in other areas of the world or traveling or want to travel, these are the other regionals we've got. Doug is looking at holding basically 6 regional events a year. They'll be in the same regions every year. They might shift in position, but they'll most likely be in those same regions: Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, Southwest, and then the Mideast here. So you can kick that. And Toronto, which is awesome. And we're international. I mentioned that. So we've got 2-3 great opportunities coming up internationally, which is just so cool to see. I think the last I saw, the 2 regionals in Africa had over 80 registrants already each. So they're cranking. They're really hungry for community over there, and it's really shown. They got some great folks putting that together. You can click me over one more time. I think we're to the good stuff. So here we are. Chicago is coming up. I was just chatting with Chrissy Mullins offline. I mean, we're 40 days away. It's crazy how fast it's coming. And yeah, so if you haven't registered, you want to register, hit me up. I probably can get you a little bit better, discount code on the 15%, because they gave me free reign to the discount code maker, which is probably a mistake. So, hit me up on email or in the chat, and I'll reach out to you if you haven't got a ticket already. Love to have you join us. It's going to be a great time, and I think a lot of folks on the call are joining us. So that's it for me on the Doug side. I'm going to kick it back to I think Hannah to take us to this next stage in the agenda.
Yep, I think if you go one more, Steve, it's live survey time.
Yep, it's not playing ball. Here we go. Do you want to just do a quick agenda recap, because we obviously want to
let's go for it.
Juan's time this morning. So Hannah's right. We're going to go straight into open survey next, and really wanted to hear from everybody in the meeting, pain points, things that are going well, things aren't. Hannah will go in more detail there. And then we've got our friend Rachel, who will enlighten us with some wonderful things, I'm sure, after that. So Hannah, over to you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pull up our survey. I'll put the link in the chat as well. If you've never done a mentee survey, it's paced by me as I move through the questions on your device. The questions will change. So you can either scan the QR code if you want to do the survey on your phone. And if folks are done with their lunch and want to jump back on camera as we kind of have this discussion, we definitely welcome that. But you can also put mentee.com in your browser on your computer and then put in our code for this survey. And we will go through the questions. I'll give some time for folks to join. If you join, hit that heart button or that like button for me to know that you're here. And I'll wait to kind of get us kicked off till I see that number closer to how many folks we have on the call. If anybody has any issues logging on, feel free to put it in the chat and we can try to get it sorted out. And I think you can join as we go as well. So if that number doesn't get too much higher, I can give folks some more time, or I can kind of get us started and let folks join as they make it in. And just before we get started, we'll have some kind of icebreaker questions, but really we're just trying to get a pulse on the group, what everyone's interests are. It's been a while since we had an in-person meeting, and obviously this space is constantly changing. So we're just trying to keep a pulse on what you guys are interested in. It's our group, right? So it doesn't need to always be the topics that Steve and I are interested in, right? If you guys have topics that you're interested in, please share them in the survey. We want everybody to get what they need to get out of this group and be continually learning together. So maybe we'll just kick it off so that we have enough time to kind of go through this. If I can go to the next one. We're going to start off with an easy one. So if you want to join, if you didn't get in time, you should still be able to join. But let us know, is this your first Denver user group event, whether virtual or in person? Just trying to get a pulse on how many newbies there are. I feel like sometimes Bobby Meetup says there's a lot of newbies, and I don't know, is that accurate? Oh, you're muted, Bobby.
Maybe the first meeting, but or they've been part of the group and this is the first meeting. I agree. I was trying to figure that out too.
It's high sometimes. Yep.
Yep.
All right, give folks a few more seconds, but it seems like we got a lot of returners and a few newbies. All right, well, welcome to the new folks. We're excited to have you. We're excited to do an in-person meetup in June after DynamicsCon. I think we'll kind of plan to do a wrap-up of DynamicsCon. Depending on how many folks actually went, we can decide on how detailed that is or not, right? We don't want to repeat everything that was at DynamicsCon, but it's a good metric for us to have. So welcome to the newbies. I will jump to the next question. Are you going to DynamicsCon in May? Are you going? You're a planner, you've got it all booked. Are you going? Are you not a planner and you have nothing booked, but you know you're going? Or can you not make it? And I think I heard book your hotel because the hotel block is maybe already booked up.
It's getting there. Yeah,
Almost.
yeah. We've got the hotel. I mean, it's a, it is, will be pretty much everybody from DynamicsCon will be in the hotel. So it'll be us. It's kind of cool. We'll have the whole thing. So yeah, I think it's getting booked up with all the speakers getting in there. So if you're not a speaker and you haven't booked yet, definitely hit that.
Awesome. Well, it looks like everybody that's going is booked, so that's good. Good to see. All right. I will go to the next one. All right, I think we're going to get a little bit more detailed from here on out. Those are kind of our intro questions. So we're trying to understand from the group what everyone's priorities are for 2025. This could be D365 specific, Microsoft space, not specific high level, just what everyone's priorities are. I would say if you haven't delved into Power Apps, maybe it's Power Platform, it's Power Apps, it's automation, it's AI, or maybe it's agents for everything. And then also, I know like for Ovintiv, like BPA is a big thing for us. Yep. I don't know if that was one of my folks that put that on there, but delving into that a little bit more as Microsoft improves it. Licensing security is another one I always think of that a lot of folks have as a priority, getting that in line, especially if you're approaching a licensing renewal with Microsoft. New unified dev experience is another good one, and probably the migration over to the Power Platform Admin Center. Probably a big one for a lot of folks on this call. What is BizProCat? Does somebody feel comfortable unmuting and speaking to that?
Maybe the business process catalog.
Oh, Rachel, did you put that one?
I didn't, but like maybe it is. Like I didn't like, and I love that name, and I might steal it.
All right,
and
I'm
make a new icon or something to go with my catalog, but it wasn't me, so
designer can quickly design you a logo.
Someone's after my heart, though.
Styled logo, yeah.
All right, so it does have a little bit of AI in here that's grouping our responses for us based on topics. So a lot of people saying AI. I don't know that Fabric necessarily goes in here, but anonymization, leveraging AI, agents for everything. A lot of Power Platform, security, unified dev experience, testing automations, MSP partners. Let's see, you've got Copilot licensing, business process catalog and business performance analytics, and then clients for our newest offering. Awesome. Is maybe just getting a pulse now, is testing automation a big thing on anybody's list? You know, Microsoft has increased definitely how many I need to close the chat so I stop laughing at people's gifts. Is testing automation a big thing for everybody right now, just given that Microsoft's increasing the number of releases you have to take a year? I don't know if anybody else is anticipating at some point they say you can't pause at all. Anything like that, feel free to put it in the chat if that's a big thing for you. I know it's a topic Bobby, Steve, and I have kind of discussed lately is testing automation, RSAT versus other tools.
At a high level, I still see that one pretty often as a concern, like, you know, from a conference level, you know, in the different conferences and locals I'm seeing.
Yep. And I assume we'll have some of the big hitters, Bobby, at DynamicsCon again, like last year. LeapWork, TestSmart. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. I will jump on to the next one. I want to make sure I leave Rachel enough time. Okay, so kind of in the same vein, we're looking to see what folks' pain points are, topics of interest. Maybe it's not necessarily a priority for 2025, but it's a topic that's come up lately that you feel like you don't know enough about, or just pain points that you experience in the D365 realm in general. I know security, maybe again, is a big one. Microsoft did just roll out some stuff about security and licensing. Probably is a topic that we'll look at getting on the board for June. I can probably put that blog article in the chat just so people can see it after this, but like licensing is one for us. I don't know, Steve, if you've got any ones off the top of your head that are relevant in your org.
Yeah, so one of the big ones for us is database capacity and how to manage that better, both from an F&O and a Dataverse perspective. Depending on how many licenses you have, depends on how big your capacity is, and
yeah,
we're well over. So we've got some work to do to get back in line.
Yeah, totally. Anybody have any other pain points, topics of interest, like topics you would like to see at, you know, the in-person Doug meeting in June? Like, is it Power Platform? Or do we still want to see more stuff on Power Platform? Is it targeted discussions on Copilot? Or yeah, have we hit a capacity with any of those topics, or anything that we've like yet to discuss at all in this user group that would be really helpful to see?
Kieran has his hand up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Kieran.
So I didn't want to just blurt out here.
No, you're fine.
I'm kind of biased in that I've drinking the Business Central Kool-Aid first and foremost, but integrations between Dynamics Sales and Business Central, identifying like when you can use a standard connector with the virtual tables, any custom fields for that kind of stuff. And then if you do have to go custom web services, understanding what kind of licensing you need to go for. That's all very near to my heart. I know that technically you can create automated accounts, but then you have to worry about like multiplexing and if you're paying the appropriate amount for those licenses.
Does dual write play a part there? I don't know how long it's been since anyone talked about dual write here. It still feels like it's something that's required if you're going to do an integration between any of the three, I would say, of the D365s. No? Not something we've discussed in a while? Okay. That's good to know. I know there are some other Microsoft D365 solutions that like require you to turn on dual write, and if you didn't go live with it turned on, it's kind of a scary prospect.
Yeah.
To flip the switch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that said, if anyone wants me to present anything on how you can create API pages and integrations for Business Central, the big thing here is just the licensing I can't really speak on, but happy to do that kind of demo if it's helpful for people.
Cool. Good to know. All right, we got Power BI, automation, licensing, security, leaders not buying Copilot, Power Platform, limited Gov cloud function.
I think that ROI discussion could be an
Yeah,
important
I
one.
think
Just
it's cut off like functionality.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's kind of where it is. Like, what's the ROI? How do we continue to keep help selling the ROI to these newer innovations?
Yep. Agents. All right, cool. Anybody have any other pain points or anything in that realm? And go to the next one if not. I think our next one was just a general open-ended way to give us some anonymous feedback that we could even speak to right now. So, I mean, anything related to Doug, the format, anything like that. Do you like virtual? Would you rather be in person? I think it's been a while since we did a virtual, maybe if ever, Bobby. So
yeah, no, I mean, this group in its current state has never done a virtual. We did one or two during the pandemic, but and there are probably some people. Aaron I think Aaron, you were probably there. There were a few people from Magpul. I don't think Eventive because Michelle and I had met, so I'm not sure you'd seen it. So there were just a very few people that are probably on here that even saw one of those virtuals. Melise maybe, but there was one or two during pandemic, like 2020, maybe one in 2021. We tried to get back in person in 22, didn't work. And then it was 23 that Michelle had the thing in Eventive. We've been rolling in person ever since. So this is the first virtual back. But I'm happy with the attendance. It was it was really well attended, and I think a great presentation. So maybe it's a good mix somewhere in the middle. Maybe in in the winter times when it's cold and we don't want to travel out. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it too. It's nice, and they can be a little shorter, not as much of a time commitment for folks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Melise. I think maybe you were gonna say something.
Well, I was like, I don't like to leave my 3-mile bubble, so I don't know if this is good for me or bad for me.
Like we're feeding into your home base.
It,
yeah, we need to get you out further. Yeah.
I feel like we could incentivize with a happy hour.
Yeah, Melise works at a happy hour, just so you know.
That's why I just invite you guys to my place. Yeah, that's
the dots are connected.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Any other things on topics? Just we have a couple more seconds before I'll pass it off to Rachel, but I see more customer success stories. Is that, feel free to put it in here if you don't want to say it out loud, but is that like people in the Denver user group that are regular attenders speaking more to, their success stories, what they're using, what they like? Or is that pulling in Microsoft to do success stories?
Hannah, I put that one in. So I think we've got a very strong and diverse group here. And
agreed, yeah.
Just from talking to people in past meetups, we're all doing interesting things and we've all got success stories that we could share. I'd encourage everyone to take that mantle and just share something cool that you guys are doing, because we know you are. So we're all playing with these tools. We're all invested in Microsoft. Let's share the love. See what we got out there.
Yeah, and Steve, just to piggyback off of that, your guys' customer success story was very entertaining to watch too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. Yep. Thank you.
And I didn't get on that. I went to go find my lunch, but I didn't go to the Menti. But the one thing I would think is, if there are projects that are coming up for our groups, and were there ISVs that you liked, or were you able to use the native D365? Were you kind of pulling the group on that with sort of high level requirements? And I guess that could be a success story or a not success story.
Yeah.
But they're both good to hear, frankly. So.
Like a thing to think about as
hearing
well.
Them, not the people that had to go through the not success.
Yeah.
Would it be interesting to have like a whole grouping of all the different ISVs that we use, like is in general? It doesn't have to be like specific to any company, but maybe we throw those out there just to have the group of, so we can see if there's more than one person using the same stuff within here. Because I mean, how many times are we all sitting there with an ISV going, well, this new code is it limited this, or something happened here. How are you guys dealing with that?
I think that's a great shout out and something that we could all share pretty quickly. Which ISVs are we using?
Yeah.
In these community events, we can talk about some of those things, what's going well, what's not. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I meet with Burpee and all these other different, places that are really similar to us. And it's very interesting to see that I think we have like 6 different platforms that we're using that are like, I thought were pretty kind of vague, some of them. And so having a meeting like even quarterly with those guys and these others have been really helpful to go, how are you guys managing this new piece of this puzzle?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had a couple of conversations with Hannah about certain things of interviews that we either do use or are thinking of using. So it's always been useful to get someone else's perspective on, are we taking the right path here? Are we embarking on the right journey?
Yeah.
Good shout out. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
We've seen the emergence of Rachel's sticker wall. We know it's time to turn it over to her.
Yep, that's my cue.
One of 2 sticker walls, or maybe 3 now. I don't know. The ever expanding sticker, universe.
Yeah, we were going to say we were going to introduce Rachel, but there is no introducing Rachel. Everyone knows Rachel, so you may as well just go straight into it, Rachel.
Great. That's fantastic news. I'm trying to find my I made 3 PowerPoint slides for this presentation since I don't have very much time. And I wanted to make sure that people had time to ask their questions. So I'm going to click the little fancy present in Teams button here, and you should be able to see my screen shortly. I'm probably going to spend more time on my demo than I am anything else, but
There's like Juan's left, so if Teams doesn't work, you can't give him a direct feedback.
Apparently, it's prompting me that I need to save this, and I'm like, it is saved. Why won't it let me just present this?
By design, Rachel. Microsoft's usual stance.
It's a feature. I might have to share my screen the good old-fashioned way, which is now stressing me out. It's fine. It's fine.
No, it's fine.
It's my first time using Teams today. All right. I'm going to go into present mode on this really remarkable PowerPoint presentation that I made with 3 slides. Maybe. Okay. So, the what's new craze. Well, for anyone who doesn't know me, let me just do an introduction really quick, first. It's just okay. My name is Rachel Prophet. I always do inclusive and accessible introductions. So I'm a white woman with long red hair. I have rose-colored glasses on. I'm wearing a purple and white plaid shirt, and I'm in my office with my epic sticker wall behind me. I'm a principal program manager at Microsoft, responsible for our business process excellence program, which is really focused on driving customers and partners to use a process-focused approach throughout their Dynamics 365 implementations and driving success. And today, I was going to focus in on kind of the what's new craze, right? The release notes. So I pulled 3 links here. The first one is the release wave, on Learn, Microsoft Learn. The second one is the link to the release planner. And I'm actually going to demo because I went through the release planner and I picked out my favorites from the release planner, and I'll talk through kind of some of those kind of key features that I thought were exciting. And then the last link here is actually a link to an article that Charles Lamanna posted on LinkedIn. If you haven't seen it, he talks a little bit about 2 new features, including deep reasoning and agent flows, which I think are super, super exciting. But instead of death by PowerPoint, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint, and I'm going to go over to my browser and show you my release plan. How many of you is everyone familiar with the release planner out on the Learn site?
It's almost like if you don't know it, put your hand up just so Rachel can see, or put a thumbs up in there if you don't know it.
So the link to the release planners in my deck, I can paste them into the chat as well if you're not familiar. But the release planner is like, I think it's probably the easiest way to navigate about the release notes, because if you've ever been out to the release notes on Learn, which was my first link, it organizes it by product, and like then you have to go to like 50 different pages to actually see what's new. And I find it like, it's maybe if you're looking for something very specific, it's great, but that's why I kind of like the planner, because you can kind of filter and search and add things to your own plan. You do have to be logged into the website. It's free to create an account on Microsoft Learn if you don't have one already. And then it saves whichever ones you add to your plan for you. So by default, when you come in here, you'll be in the all release plans, and they organize the content by kind of 3 areas: Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and the role-based co-pilots are newer. If you haven't been out here in a while, this is your co-pilot for sales, service, and finance. All of the co-pilots in are kind of scattered about underneath Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. Underneath Power Platform is also where you'll find Copilot Studio. And for those of you that don't know, Copilot Studio it's not just a rebrand of Power Virtual Agents, but Copilot Studio was created from Power Virtual Agents. So if you were familiar with the old branding of Power Virtual Agents, a lot of the features and functionalities that kind of were the starting point of Copilot Studio, that's what they became. So that's kind of how they organize them. And you can kind of see that there's like different filters across the top. There's like little buttons if you've never used it over here where you can filter and sort your results. There's also a search box that you can use up at the top that if you're looking for something, it'll search across all the products. So I already went through this and picked out my favorites. So if I switch to the release plan, and let me go back for 1 second, because like if you've never built one of these plans, if you're looking at a particular feature and you are like, yes, my company should implement this, you can highlight that particular feature and use the little plus icon to add that into your release plan, and it'll prompt you and say, do you want to add it? You click add, and then it'll be in. I'm not going to add it because this one isn't one of my top picks. So my release plans. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down so I don't skip around. I tried to pick just 1 or 2 per area, and I didn't pick one from every single product because I'm not involved enough with every single product. So these were just my favorites. I'm going to start with the finance and operations cross app capabilities. So my top pick for like platform feature was the ability to extend Copilot in your finance and operations apps with client actions. This was actually just released in March. Jared Hall is actually doing a presentation on this at DynamicsCon. He's done some other presentations on this. So like if you're interested in Copilot, or you like have used the Copilot that's embedded into F&O, this feature basically allows you to take the out-of-the-box Copilot and extend it. And that can be super powerful because the Copilot that's there primarily just uses the Microsoft Learn content. But we all know like every single organization has like their own content, like SharePoint repositories of documentation, and other features and functionality. And there's a lot of very like specific Copilot capabilities that are embedded into F&O as well, where you can extend and make your own actions, not just the sidecar that lives inside of F&O. And so lots of great stuff. And there's like a button here where you can go get that documentation. If you don't follow Jared Hall on LinkedIn, I would definitely highly recommend following him. And check out anything that you can that he does. He sits in this team that does a lot of this functionality. He's one of the program managers, and he's very active in the community and writes about it, talks about it, etc. So he's a great resource. So that was my pick for the F&O platform. And like, guys, if you have questions as I go throughout, please don't hesitate to pause or stop me. My next one is Dynamics 365 Finance. So there was a lot of features and it was really, really hard to pick one. But the one that I chose in finance was the ability to manage the acquire to dispose data model. This is actually coming into public preview this month. And so this one's near and dear to my heart because I am process focused all the way, like through and through. I've been saying it for a long time and I'll say it again here. You can't automate a business process that you don't understand. Our BPP and BPA functionality, business performance analytics and business performance planning features, which are add-ins to Dynamics 365 Finance. They've been gradually adding more and more data models, and this month they're adding the acquire to dispose data model. So source to pay, which is like all the procurement processes, is available. Record to report. I think there's one or two other ones that are already available. This is a new one that's coming in this month, which is going to add even more value to customers. You can still always extend the data models that are in BPA and BPP, but obviously the more we do out of the box and we're aligning to our catalog, which just makes my heart warm. So that's why I chose this one. All right, next up is project operations. I actually chose two from project operations because there was so many features in project operations. If you look at like the list in ProjOps, like compared to finance, it's almost twice as long. So I actually chose one that was a co-pilot, and then I chose one that was really just around optimizing. And sometimes it's the little things, I think, that make the biggest difference. So my pick for co-pilot in project operations was our new agent that is designed for helping with approvals. Now, we added an agent that's been available for a little while already, specific to actually creating time and expenses. This new agent, which is coming out this month, and expected to be GA'd in September, is specific to the approval processes. And the reason why I like this one, and I think this is so exciting, is because I think this idea of using an agent to help approve things is one that you'll see kind of one that you as organizations can extend using my platform pick to other business processes, but I think you're going to see a lot more of these approval type agents across lots of different business processes. And the idea that you can train a co-pilot to make the decisions and eliminate the manual work that people need to do those approvals. And I think it's a super cool example of using co-pilots and agent experiences to improve a business process. So that was my pick there. So now, like, not only will the end user be able to create their timesheet, but now an agent can also help assist with the approval process, saving time for managers and those people who need to approve time and expenses. My second pick on project operations was it's one that's like, it's kind of a little thing, but it's a really big thing. And it's the ability to use stocked products in resource-based deployments. So I don't know how many of you use project operations today, but we've had 3 deployment modes. And there's the light deployment mode where you just use the CE side of projects. There's the resources non-stocked deployment mode, which is kind of like the mix of the two together. And then there's the stocked production mode, which is like the legacy F&O, PMA, project management and accounting module version. We're getting closer and closer to feature parity, and this was a big, big step for that resource non-stocked. We don't actually call it resource non-stocked anymore because now we support stocked, not just non-stocked products. So little thing, big deal. And so I think this is a big, big, powerful one. This is expected to go into preview in the June timeframe and expected to be GA in December of this year. So exciting. feature. I do believe that they have a private preview for this. So if you are using projects and have stocked products and want to get in on that private preview, there might still be some time to get some early access to it, but it'll be in public preview pretty soon. All right, human resources. I cheated on this one too because HR has always been near and dear to my heart, and I think HR doesn't get enough love. So I chose two here, a Copilot and an optimized feature. So on the Copilot side, and we actually have quite a few Copilots, it was a little bit hard to pick one, but the one I chose to go with was our job posting and interviewing using the recruiter assistant agent. So if you haven't seen our new recruiting experience altogether, it's not just an agent, but there's a whole new recruiting experience. And this is just one of the, I think, like 4 different agents that are part of our new recruiting and onboarding functionality that we've introduced with human resources. It kind of goes back to like the old, it's very similar to some of the old talent functionality that we used to have for recruiting and onboarding, but it's even better, and it's been infused with the agents and the AI capabilities that make it very, very easy to write job descriptions. And the reason I chose this one, because it seems like it's maybe a simple one, and it kind of is, but those of you that know me, accessibility and inclusivity is like near and dear to my heart. And I really appreciate the work that they put into this one in the way that they write job descriptions and the work that they did to help drive all organizations who use this functionality to write job descriptions that are inclusive and accessible. And I think that's such an important thing that like could have an even bigger impact on the entire world, not just improving the like time it takes to write job descriptions. Nobody likes to write job descriptions. And even if you don't have the HR functionality, like, if you've got the Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can definitely ask it for help in writing a basic job description. This obviously just takes it one step further in kind of embedding that in the whole flow and getting it out to the job boards. And I think it's super cool. So that's why I chose that one. The other one that I chose is the integrate human resources with Viva connections. Viva has been around for a while, and there's a lot of different like Viva functionality out there. And like you've always been able to like manually integrate the two, but it hasn't been like a great like out of the box story. So I think it's super cool that we're finally bringing these together. It is in public preview now. So if your organization uses Viva Connections and you're using HR, it basically gives you a way to integrate Viva Connections to the performance stuff and like manage all your worker information in HR. Lots of really cool functionality where you're getting the best of both worlds in the organization. So that was my pick there. And I'm like powerhousing through these. So again, guys, if you've got a question, want to hear a little bit more about any one of these features, don't hesitate to pause me, stop and ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep powerhousing through. Next up is supply chain management. So I only chose one here, and this one has actually been around for a little while. It went into public preview in October of last year. We've already done a tech talk on this new feature, so if you're not familiar with it, but I think it's a big deal. We purchased some contract management IP from another company, and we've integrated that in, and I think this is a big deal for a lot of organizations. Contracting has been a kind of piece of the sourcing process that we have never supported out of the box, and you oftentimes had to do outside of the system. And it's also an area that I think can be very manual and very tedious. Oftentimes there's a lot of like legal language that goes into contracts with your suppliers. So I think it's super cool to see this functionality added that supports the creation of purchase agreements, NDAs, and like uses all of that master data and information from Dynamics 365 and can help flow through that whole procurement process. So it's like that initiating starting point of the business process significantly enhanced with the acquisition and introduction of this IP. So moving on to the Power Platform, what I chose here, and I only chose one underneath Copilot Studio. And again, this was really hard to pick just one, so that I wouldn't ramble on for 7 hours. But the one that I chose for Copilot Studio was the ability to create automated Copilot triggers by events. And so it's almost like, think of like the way that you can create a Power Automate flow that's like has a trigger, like when this happens, do this thing. And like bringing that into Copilot Studio so that you can trigger a Copilot to do something when an event happens. So you can kind of like make that query or that filter to say like, when this happens, go run this Copilot, and then you can go like obviously do as many other steps as you might want. And so that was a pretty cool feature. It was introduced back in November. If you haven't played around with it, I definitely think it's one worth trying out. It was supposed to go generally available in March. I think it's pushed it. I think it's probably going to be later this month. But you can go enable those preview features pretty easily. And it should be generally available very, very soon. So that was my pick for Copilot Studio. And then I also picked just one for Copilot for Finance. And this was my last feature. And then I'm going to go back to my slide because I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about my pet project. But the one that I chose for Copilot for Finance was the manage accounts receivable in Teams. So we've been doing a lot of work in the AR collections management space. And so with this, what we are doing is basically adding like agent experiences, Copilot experiences directly inside of Microsoft Teams to make it easier to process and recover those outstanding debts. A lot of times in many organizations, especially B2B type business models, collections can be a manual and tedious process, and you have to coordinate with the account rep or the salesperson, and then you're contacting the customer. And so being able to bring that together with Teams and have those actions that you can take very quickly and easily while being able to pull the data from Dynamics 365 and send an email, I think is going to like really kind of change the way we look at credit and collections. And I kind of chose this because my roots, one of my first jobs was doing AR credit and collections. And this was long before there wasn't even a collection letter feature out of the box in Exapta version 2.5 when I was doing collections. So it's kind of like a little bit of jealousy that like if I would have had this feature when I was doing AR, like that would have been super cool and awesome, but I didn't. So it's okay. I'm not that jealous. Maybe I am. I don't know. So those were my top picks from the release planner. Happy to dive in. I'd love to hear if somebody else has another favorite that they picked. Like, type it in the chat. Love to see that. I see a hand is up.
That is my hand. I don't have a top pick on the. I'd love that you're showing the release planner though. Something that was always on my radar to share consistently. Little things like that. The ideas page. There's so many fun things that Microsoft provides for users, for community members to engage in. So I'm glad you're showing that. I was just going to come back to, I think, Steve's question on case studies and somebody put in ROI. I've noticed Microsoft is getting more of these out there. So I just want to see what your feeling is like as people are looking for that ROI. How do they easily find these case studies so they can, so it's like, I don't know, but I can go up to Microsoft and grab, here's one on Copilot in finance. Here's one on Copilot in supply chain.
Yeah.
Is there a good spot to find all those?
There is. And I want to say it's customers.microsoft.com or it's customers.dynamics.com. It's very easy. I think it's customers.microsoft.com. Yes, look, I guessed right. Customers.microsoft.com. If you're not familiar with this site, bookmark it. And so this is the Microsoft repository of all case studies ever. You can, when you come out here, you can look at them by industry, you can look at them by brand, you can look at them by topic. But honestly, if you're looking for something specific, oh, where did my browser go? Okay. If you're looking for something specific, like a keyword, like, you know, Copilot or something like that, you can definitely just type in like what you're looking for. If you look at the stories by topic, then like this, like there, and there's like, if you go into the whole page, like there's a bunch of additional topics, but honestly, like if you're looking for something that's like, you know, Copilot Studio, like you can just literally type in here. We have an entire team on that sits, it's part of CXP and the fast track team that is responsible for making customer stories. And they're 100% just focused on Dynamics 365 stories. So like we've got all these different like filters that you can use. Obviously I just typed in Copilot Studio, so it gave me that product filter. But there's lots of great stories out here. And generally every single one of these stories will tell you a story of like how much they saved, you know, how they saved, you know, what they're doing. And these are real life customers that have like agreed to go on record, like sharing their stories. So if you're not familiar with it, customers.microsoft.com will get you to that big giant repository of every single case study ever that we've written.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go back. I have one more slide, and this is just a slide that's kind of like State of the Union about like what I'm doing with the business process catalog, and you know, the work that my team has been focused on. So I'm going to just go full screen on this so you can see it a little bit better. Like taking its sweet time. There we go. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I think most of you are, because I've definitely talked about it, but we've been super busy. So like as of March, this is kind of the status of our catalog. We have 643 unique business processes with more than 2,600 scenarios. More than 400 of those 643 business processes already have flow diagrams that we have released. And Monday, I had no meetings in the morning, and it was amazing. I was so productive. I got out my handy dandy Copilot, and because I've been AI generating these, and maybe one day I'd love to maybe do another presentation where I kind of share the details of like how I did it. Like how did I AI generate 600 plus flow diagrams? But on Monday, I generated about 150 more, which gets us very, very close to being done. I just have 2 more end-to-end processes to do. I'm hoping that they will both be done for our May release. So we're expecting to release a new version of the catalog in the second week of May, just before DynamicsCon. So I'll have lots of new exciting things to talk about when we get there. We have already done 10 tech talks. And if you aren't familiar with those tech talks, like we've been doing, kind of starting to loop through and doing one tech talk on each end-to-end process. We've also done a lot of work with the configuration deliverables. So we have more than 1,800 configuration deliverables, which are all the configurations in Dynamics mapped to the specific business processes that they go with. So we continue to make lots of investments in this area. I can tell you, like, we've got some exciting stuff coming up in our implementation portal for customers and partners to use, that's going to enhance even more. But the links on this slide give you, like, you can download the catalog, you can download the flows, how to import it into DevOps. Our Learn repository, we have more than 400, coming close to 500 articles that have been published out there. And we're still like looking for more and more help. We've also got a case study. It hasn't been published out to the site yet, but it will be very soon at customers.microsoft.com. But we have a case study that was specifically on a customer who leveraged our catalog. They were implementing Dynamics 365 project operations, finance, and supply chain and sales. And so they leveraged our catalog in their implementation. And they saved $440,000 and were able to cut down 20% of the time, like their project timeline, as compared to not using the catalog. Unfortunately, they got that data because they had a failed implementation, so they knew how long the original one took, and they never actually even got live. And then they had a reset with a new partner who used our catalog and our approach and had great success with it. So I'm very excited for that case study to get released in the coming weeks, and definitely keep an eye out for it. I'm sure I'll post about it on LinkedIn when it's officially published, and you can read the whole story about how they did it, and how it helped their organization and how they're continuing to use it. The one thing that I would just emphasize to everyone is that business processes are not just for your big bang Dynamics 365 projects. Everything your organization does is a business process. And anytime you're trying to optimize those business processes and use AI or Copilot or just technology in general to improve those, it's so important that you understand those business processes. Because like I said, you can't optimize a process you don't understand. And doing so oftentimes leads to suboptimal results. So I'll get off my business process bandwagon. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. I see we've got a hand up. Matt.
Yeah, Rachel, I'm just curious. You mentioned a partner that was leveraging the business process catalog. I'm curious if you can divulge who they were.
Yeah, it was actually two partners that helped the customer. And we have a lot of partners that are leveraging it. So the two in the case study, they're smaller, more like independent partners, Team Bennett Consulting and Red Cat were the two partners specifically on that particular project. But we have like 80 or 90 big partners leveraging our catalog, including Avanade, BDO, HSO, like a lot of the big guys are already leveraging our catalog for their implementations.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been talking with Allison at Red Cat, so she's awesome.
Yeah.
Rachel, you had a question in the chat. I'm going to read it out. Would love to see how you're using Copilot or hear how you're using Copilot to build process flows. Morgan's been trying in the past without much success. Any advice or direction there?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated. And I'd love to do a presentation. I don't think we have enough time today, but like if everyone's interested in it, I'd be happy to like come back and do an actual demo of how I did it. I will tell you, it took some time and some prompt engineering. My Copilot prompt is about a 4-page Word document to make it work. So it was a learning journey for me, but also I think it taught me a lot about like how to get Copilot. And I just used Microsoft 365 Copilot to do it. And there were still a couple manual steps. I basically, high level, I wrote a very complicated prompt that outputs a table of data that formats the table correctly for the Excel data Visio connector. And so then I would copy and paste those into Excel and then use the Excel data Visio connector inside of Visio to point to that data. And it would then generate the Visio from the data. So cool. I generated data and then had to manually like go connect it to my data in Visio, which I probably could have used like RPA to help automate that piece of it. But I did it the good old fashioned way because I was like reviewing each one of them to make sure that it wasn't complete and utter garbage, because AI is not always correct.
What? That's good. Morgan was definitely interested in a number of people plus that as well. So yeah, we'll look at scheduling that into one of our meetings coming up here, Rachel. Appreciate the offer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people would love to see it, including myself.
Absolutely. Like honestly, like even if you don't need to AI generate flow diagrams, I think like just by seeing how I did it, like it likely shed some light on prompt engineering, right? Which is really the key to that being successful. So yeah.
Cool.
We have a
Steve
few
also
more
made
minutes.
mention, Steve made mention just that he was working on some specific business process in India. So if you had any around regulatory requirements, so he could probably follow up with you and talk to you about that offline if it's something you'd be interested in seeing.
Yeah, if there's definitely like if there's stuff that you guys are looking for and I don't have it, always looking for more feedback. I don't know that I've done anything specific for like regulatory requirements, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it and leverage the framework that I already have.
Cool. Yeah, we found it difficult to find good documentation on India GST, given how complicated it is and how far spanning it is. But we've got that up and running. And Poonam on my team, she's doing some work around special economic zones and some additional taxes based on spend thresholds and stuff like that. So if there's anything there that you think your group could utilize, Rachel, would be happy to submit that to you.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything out of the box, like, but it doesn't mean that like my prompts couldn't be leveraged to like give it a more specific prompt for what you're looking for, and get Copilot to spit out something that might be more helpful and useful.
So yeah, I was talking more about giving the information to you guys so you can have a true business process around it for specific scenarios that other customers may be engaged in. Because India's just, it's got some complications, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, how do we get in touch with your team? Is it just the biz process guides at Microsoft.com?
Yep.
Cool.
That goes to my whole V team. So that's the best email. I mean, if you want to just talk with me, it's rachel.profit@microsoft.com.
Cool. We really do have 1 minute. You crushed it, Rachel. Thank you. Steve, Hannah, I'll let you wrap it up for the gang as we head out.
Sure. Thank you, Rachel. That was great.
Thank you.
Excellent guidance and advice there for everybody. I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's been Hannah and I. It's been our first event today, or first event as leaders, I should say. We've been here a few times before, but hopefully everyone found it useful. Hannah, would you like to say a few words?
Yep. Nope. Thanks, everybody. Be looking out for an announcement about our June event at Oventive. We'll get a date finalized and start working on some topics for that, kind of based on what we heard today. So thanks, everybody, for joining. Look forward to seeing you all in person.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Great sessions today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Happy Friday, Junior, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.